question and answers towards the end of the session. Now, with regards to the Q&A, Zoom has got functionality at the bottom, or if you're using your mobile phone, you'll see Q&A. Just submit a question. We have another colleague, Martin Smith, who is an admissions manager within the university, and Martin will look to hopefully answer some of those questions throughout the course of the session itself, or the length of the session. And of course, if there are any other burning questions that we want to put to Ronan as the acting head of admissions during the Q&A, and to Michael, Kirsten and myself, we will share those at the end as well, so everybody has a grasp of what those answers are. And just also to point out, all of the Q&A, all of the questions that will be submitted tonight will be recorded, and we'll post those out and all the answers as an FAQ to all those who have attended and registered for this evening as well. Okay, so a quick run through UCAS Apply and what that means. Again, I'm very much aware that some of you have gone through this process already, but at the same time, of course, lockdown commenced back in March time. So it's generally that time that schools start to introduce lower 6th or year 13 students to this particular process. So hopefully along the way, in terms of our future applicant webinars, our virtual open days, you'll have got the opportunity to view our webinars on how to apply to Ulster University and through UCAS, and the personal statement, for example, as well. However, this will just give us a quick refresh, I suppose, again, especially for those parents who are joining us this evening as well. So UCAS, what is UCAS? UCAS is the Universities and Colleges Admissions Service. And what does UCAS do? Well, it processes all the applications on behalf of all the universities within the UK. So you can see the numbers there. There are roughly 344 universities and colleges, dealing with over 35,000 courses, over 3 million applications from 700,000 roughly individual applicants. UCAS also a very good resource for information, advice and training, especially for completing your application form and looking at your personal statement. What it doesn't do, it doesn't suggest any courses or universities in terms of it being, I suppose, equal. And it doesn't make any decisions or offers on behalf of the universities. That goes directly to each of the universities that you actually apply for as well. And last but not least, what it doesn't do is advise on finance. For those of you, of course, from Northern Ireland, that is through Student Finance NI. And of course, that website is studentfinanceni.co.uk. It's a completely online application on ucas.com/apply, where you can make up to 5 choices. There are different restrictions there for the likes of medicine and dentistry. And there's a simple cost. £20 for one choice, or from 2 to 5 choices is £26.
Okay, Johnny, can you hear me now? So
in terms of invisibility, you can see that equal consideration. If you're making 5 choices to 5 different universities, we don't get to see that. Okay, so there's no bias in or a discrimination in terms of any application set to any university at all. We don't see anything or any other institution that you apply for, so you can be confident that one choice at another institution isn't going to have any bearing on a decision made for you at another institution as well. Some key dates to go through there, you can see from back in May when the UCAS application for 2021 entry opened. The most important date there, as you can see, is the 15th of January 2021. It's amazing how quickly this has come around for us already this year. But that is your application deadline, and that means you've got a bit of time still on your hands to complete the application. Now, in saying that, your school or college may have an arbitrary deadline, and that's to enable the schools and the colleges to process your application and to support your application with references and so on as well. So that typically could be around Halloween into November. Some schools maybe stretched out a little bit further, but I'm sure that's something you've been told in terms of making your 5 choices, putting your personal statement together, and the school or college having a deadline for you to have those completed by as well. So we'll fast forward, you can see there to the 5th of May 2021, and that's the CFCI decision deadline. So that's essentially when you have to take your 5 decisions, your 5 choices hopefully, down to 2, and that's your firm and your insurance choice. And that's if you have received all your offers, hopefully, by the 31st of March. And that's something that Ronan, as the head of admissions, will talk about later on in his piece during the webinar itself. And that brings us then to 12th of August 2021, when we have the traditional A-level results day. So regardless if you are undertaking, for example, to study A-levels or BTEC or an access course at college, the A-level results day is the main day when all the applications are effectively finalised, and when the results all come into the university, all the decisions are made, and we then can confirm all the decisions to the applicants, all to Ulster University. So a quick visual you can see there just of the application process. There are 8 sections within UCAS Apply section itself. So you can see there personal details, additional information, student finance, your 5 choices hopefully, your education to date, and of course any qualifications that you are working towards as well. And within that section, of course, you'll be working with your HIT forms, your tutors, to look at predicted grades, so on and so forth. Your employment, which can be very important for some courses in terms of highlighting key skills that you have, or key employability skills that may relate to a certain course that you're applying for. So it can be a very important section within UCAS Apply itself. And the personal statement, something we'll talk about in a moment or two as well, very important. And of course, finally, your reference, and that is to support your application to whatever institution you're applying for as well. Okay, again, just a quick visual there of what UCAS Apply looks like. Now, this may differ depending on whether you're looking at a desktop or through UCAS on your mobile phone or on a tablet. One very good bit of advice is to try to be a bit more aware and au fait with what the interface looks like and how to go through it. I know it's something that schools work very hard with you to make sure that you are selecting the right course. And especially with a university like ourselves, a multi-campus university, you want to make sure that you're choosing the right course which relates to the correct campus as well. For example, we have law both at Jordanstown and at McGee campus. So if it's McGee campus, you want to make sure you choose the correct campus code and course code for that particular program as well. Now, personal statement, and again, it's something that Ron will talk about later on, but it is the only section you have full control over. The only chance that you can sell yourself, and it is unique to you, a personal statement. It's something I suppose a lot of people aren't very comfortable with in terms of boasting what you're all about. But that's what this isn't all about. This is about supporting your choices. So if you've made 5 very strong choices, very focused choices, then your personal statement should be, well, let's just say slightly easier to put together as it would be if you had 5 completely choices, for example, say biomed sciences, law, sport, and maybe let's just say music in there as well. It's a lot harder for you to jump about all those particular subjects and to say why it is that you see yourself as the best possible candidate to get onto that course. You do have a maximum limit in terms of the characters or the lines. So it's typically about an A4 page and a minimum of 1,000 characters as well. So it's not a huge amount of space. You may think it's a lot to fill in, but once you start drafting out the reasons why you're applying for a course and why you should be successful in getting on that, you should find yourself starting to hone in and to refine that even more. And to do that takes a little bit of work, and hopefully you've started that already as well. There isn't a spelling check or a grammar check, so you'll have to do this in a word processor or Microsoft Word or so on outside of UCAS Apply and check over it as many times as possible before copying and pasting that back into UCAS Apply, and to make sure you've dotted the I's and crossing the T's on every aspect of that personal statement. What should it include? Well, we look to things like academic achievements, past and present, those that you're working towards, reasons why you're interested in that particular subject area. Were you triggered or were you motivated by somebody you know to become a nurse, to become a solicitor, to become an engineer, for example? What is your knowledge in that particular subject area now? So we want to see evidence that you've researched the course, you know, that you've got a real interest in spending a lifetime career within this probably area as well. And of course, that enthusiasm hopefully will go beyond the syllabus that you'll be taught at the university as well. What do you enjoy about studying in general? So we like to see evidence of independent study skills, because that's something you'll have to be come to terms with once you go to university. The ability to go forward yourself, find core texts, do extra research, meet with other students as groups, and of course just to delve in more to to that in which you're given within the class lectures.
Yeah, I think it's important just to say on that slide there that the personal statement.
Okay, so that's the personal statement. We're moving on now to decision making, and what typically universities and colleges will review. So we typically look at the personal statement, again, something Ronan will talk about in a few seconds as well. Applications, and of course reference, which will help support your application from the school or college as well. We may also look to is an admissions test. For example, for us that's HPAT, an interview, and a portfolio or audition as well. And then, of course, on the strength of that, we will make one of three decisions that will be either an unconditional offer, a conditional offer, or whether that be unsuccessful for any of your 5 options as well. And of course, once we make those decisions, they will be available for you to view on your UCAS track. So on the slide there, you'll see a visual of that particular, or an example there of Rebecca's UCAS track as well. And again, this differs whether you're on desktop, mobile, or tablet as well. So again, something for you to become very familiar with once you've made your application. And we're looking, and you're looking for things, we're looking for you, of course, either to make us a firm acceptance, that's your first choice, or an insurance backup choice, or an insurance acceptance as well. So at the point of having 5 offers, hopefully you'll make those 2 firm or insurance offers, and then you must decline all remaining offers that you have on UCAS track. And of course, UCAS track allows you to follow the progress of your application, to view those offers, and to reply to the offers that you've been made as well. Some other dates for you to be aware of just before we move on. We have extra, so if you have used up all your 5 choices and have no offers, you can add 1 extra choice at a time using track until you have an offer from any particular institution. And of course, clearing is another opportunity for you if you haven't received any offers, or if you've declined all your offers or not met the conditions, to apply for vacancies that we might have, and that will be open on the 5th of July and also closes on the 19th of October. And that's when we fast forward to August, or the middle of August next year, when the results are notified directly to ourselves by UCAS. They're then checked against the conditions of your offer, and then we then confirm or reject the offers if you have met those particular grades. And if you have met or exceeded the conditions of your offer, then we must accept you. That's a contractual obligation by every university who enters into the UCAS application process. At this moment, if you've exceeded your expectations, you can explore adjustment. Adjustment allows you to look at some other programs which you might not have at the time of application because you thought you wouldn't get particular grades or higher grades, and that's another opportunity for you to look at. So those higher or highly competitive or courses that look for extra or higher grades in general as well. Now, if you don't meet the conditions, if you've fallen slightly short of your offer, don't panic. There may still be an opportunity for you to go onto the course. And again, it's something that Ronan will talk about later on in terms of maybe change course offers, or just looking at the lay of the land during A-level results day to make sure that hopefully there's still an opportunity for you to get entry to the university if you're marginal, or if you can go and look via clearing for any of the other vacancies that we have as well. Okay, so that was a little quick run through the UCAS Apply. Hopefully that's just added to your knowledge of what the UCAS Apply and application system is itself. I'm delighted to be joined by a current student, and as I mentioned at the very beginning, a colleague in Christine Leckie, who is a second-year business studies student, who studies, who's a marketing engagement assistant and undertaking her industrial placement with us in the department. And Christine, we haven't actually met her in person, strangely enough. she started at the beginning of lockdown, so it's testament to her that she's been able to work through all that's going on in the pandemic and been able to come on tonight and talk to you about her UCAS experience and what it has meant for her and how it has got her to where she is today. Kirsten, thank you for joining this evening.
Hello. As Johnny said then, my name is Kirsten Leckie, and I'm currently studying business studies at Ulster University. I'm in my placement year, so my third year of my studies, and I am part of the market engagement team as their market engagement assistant for the year. So my role tonight then, moving on, is basically to give you a little bit of an insight into your UCAS application and the steps you will take in your UCAS application. If we could move on slides here for me, Johnny. Perfect. So the first step then, and probably the easiest step, is just when you begin sixth form. So for me, it was kind of a nerve-wracking time, but I knew the importance of the next couple of years, and I knew that there would be important decisions to be made along the way. I understood how important it would be. So kind of getting into the zone, doing your studies, beginning your studies and putting the work and the effort in as early on as possible is really important. The next step then is research. If we could pop on the next one. So researching your options. Very quickly, I knew that I wanted to go to university. I didn't want to go into full-time employment just yet, or an apprenticeship or anything like that there. So I knew university was for me. Thankfully, I attended the open days and UCAS events, and I knew that Ulster as well was for me. Because of the research that I had conducted, I knew what I wanted from uni and also what I didn't want. So really investing the time and the energy into your research is very, very important. Moving on again, then.
Kirsten, can you hear me okay? Yeah?
Yeah, go on ahead.
And just look, I know you've mentioned before you were one of the first generation to come through your family to university, and I'm talking about from a parent's perspective or your own parents. Is it something that they help you with, or that maybe you wish you had have asked more about that could have helped you along the way as well?
Yeah, well, as Johnny said then, my mum and dad didn't go to uni. I was kind of the first one in my family to go to university. So to be honest, they didn't know a great deal about the application process or just university in general. So I did try and include them as much as I can, and I'll talk about that there in the next couple of steps. But yeah, I did ask them a couple of questions along the way, what they thought, what their advice was. So yeah, I did include them, even though they didn't know a great deal about university.
Yeah, and that could be the same for a lot of parents who are joining us tonight. Maybe not, but parents play a big part in helping advise their sons and daughters on not just the process itself, but the big decisions that they're going to make, whether it be moving away from home, staying nearby, or moving home in general, even to come to the Belfast Coleraine or McGee campus. But big decisions that require a lot of people to think about them. I think it's something for everybody to think about definitely as well.
Yeah, definitely. So moving on then, choosing your 5 courses is the next step. So because of the research I had conducted, I had a clear vision of what I wanted to do, and for me that was business. It was my strongest subject, it was the subject I enjoyed, so I knew that all of my 5 courses would be around the topic of business. I knew I also wanted to stay in Northern Ireland. Doing my research, I was open to other institutions, but because of the research I had conducted, all 5 choices for me were for Ulster University. Moving on then, I have it here as the dreaded personal statement, and probably the most difficult part of your UCAS application. For me anyway, it definitely was probably the hardest part. And I guess that's probably, it's because you're writing about yourself is a little bit more difficult. It's your first introduction to you to the university. So it is important that you invest the time and the energy into writing your personal statement. One tip I would have is to have a structure of your personal statement. I can remember staring at the screen for hours on end, just at a blank screen, trying to get the first few sentences. It was difficult. But once you get that past that stage and you have a structure and you know what you want to talk about and you know what you want to write about, it does make it a little bit easier. Another tip with your personal statement is getting as many eyes on it as you possibly can. Mine was around business studies, so I got my business teachers to read it, careers teachers, family, mum and dad, and friends. I got as many eyes on it as I possibly could, because what one set of eyes will see, another could miss, or people could interpret things different. So it's definitely important you get as many eyes on it as you can.
I think, Christina, as well, with the personal statement is people struggle to start. They don't they, and they're looking for the perfect opening statement. Instead of just using maybe the notepad on their phone or on their laptop or their iPad and just writing down words, typing out words to get something down, and then we can work around refining the structure and what it is you're wanting to put across on the statement itself. So it's getting started, I think, is the main thing, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Moving on, then we begin to receive our offers. So one thing I will say when it comes to receiving your offers is just to be patient. Don't panic. Just sit back, and at the end of the day, your application is complete now. The only thing that is left to do is just put your head in your books and focus on your studies. I can remember getting an email through on my school email saying that there was an update on my UCAS track. So I rushed on very quickly, and within a week, I think I got maybe 2 offers in the 1 week, but there could have been a couple of weeks I didn't get any. So it's just sitting back, relaxing, and just focusing on your work and doing that. It's just being patient, as hard as it is.
Yeah, and it's important there, Kirsten. You hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah. It's just important, just when you are receiving your offers, that you're in a class there of other students. You're all going through hopefully the same process. So they could be receiving offers. They could be have all 5 of theirs. You maybe have only got 2 or 3 of yours. But it's important that you do be patient and you just don't go ahead and think, right, what's going on here? Why haven't they got back? Why haven't I heard? You know, there is a closing date. You'll hopefully hear before that, and you'll have time. So just don't be rushing in and just making a selection just because you've maybe only got 3 of your 5 back, and just hold off. And whenever you get them all back, either you're confirmed or you've been totally declined, then at least you'll know, and then you can go ahead and make your choice.
Yeah, definitely. The last step then of my little journey is getting my A-level results and being accepted onto the course. So I can remember the night before feeling so nervous and so worried and anxious, and it was only the morning to wait. But yeah, it was very nerve-wracking. And whenever I got accepted onto the course that I wanted to do and I got my grades, I was so proud of myself. It was a very cliche, but as is to say, but it was a very proud moment for me and my family. I had included them in the process. They knew what I wanted to do and where I needed to be, and what I needed to do to get there. So yeah, it was a very proud moment.
Brilliant. Good for you, Kirsten.
Moving on then. The last little part of my section tonight is some tips I have for you guys just with the application process to higher education. So as I've said already, research is so important. I'm on a course I love. I enjoy my course, and I never thought I would say it, but I look forward to the classes. So I only got to where I wanted to be because I put the research in, and little details such as your course location, the modules within each course, each of your 5 courses you're choosing, the breakdown of exam and coursework, things like that, there are all factors you need to consider when you're selecting your 5 choices.
Yeah. And just that you guys are at the year 14 stage doing the research. Our website's probably the best place for you to go. Your school will have, our college will have prospectuses, but the website's the best place for you to go. You'll get all the most up-to-date information there, and do your research, as Kirsten's saying. Hopefully from tonight you'll pick up a bit more. We'll have webinars that'll chat about at the end, that'll direct you as well and give you more insight into the university, and then hopefully you're in a better position to make your choice when that time comes. Yeah,
perfect. So the next tip then is annoy your teachers.
So we'll be glad to hear that now tonight.
So don't be afraid to ask them questions. Even whenever I started placement, I was asking questions and I thought, sounds like a really silly question, but there is no such thing. They're there to guide you and assist you through your UCAS application. So don't be afraid to ask them questions and annoy them with your queries and anything you want to know. Similar then to the next one, or to the one previous, sorry, is annoy your family. If we can pop that up on the screen. So yeah, very similar to the one before. I had mine involved. They knew what I wanted to do, what I needed to do to get there. So asking them questions and getting them involved and asking them to read the personal statement. Annoy them as much as you need to, and ask them questions as well.
Mm-hmm.
Lastly, then, work hard and believe in yourself. I am only where I am because of the hard work I had put in sixth form, and especially year 14. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't easy. There was times it was tough and times I kind of doubted myself. But that moves me on to believing in yourself as well. If you believe in yourself, you will get to where you want to be.
And Kirsten, why did you think belief or doubt was there? Was it because maybe the timing of the application? It's like you only come into year 14 or upper sixth, and it just seems to be thrown upon you.
Yeah.
And you're expected to make those 5 choices.
Yeah. I guess I think everybody probably goes through it at some stage, but yeah, I definitely did doubt myself. I don't know why. I think we all just do it. It's a natural thing, but I knew how important year 14 was in particular, and what I needed to do to get there. And to be honest, I didn't really think about it until it came to that stage. But putting the work in definitely pays off. I can remember getting my results and how happy I was with myself. And you'll only get to where you want to be if you put the work in.
Well, how important is it then, to have to make firm choices with conviction in order to make that personal statement stronger, but also give you more conviction and less doubt and more belief that you're on the right track and you can work away the energy levels or whatever qualifications that you're doing for the rest of 6 or 7 months ahead.
Yeah, it's difficult. It is. It's hard, and there's a lot of hard work that needs to go in. You have to be dedicated. You have to be motivated. Listening to your teachers and doing corrections and little things like that there will help you along the way. Even if it doesn't seem like it at the time, it does help you and it gets you to where you need to be. But just keep going, keep motoring on, and that's it in a nutshell. That's only 10 minutes nearly I've been talking there. It's a lot longer. There's many more months and weeks that are involved in the application process, but it's worth it in the end.
One of the things you mentioned to me as well was about keeping an eye on the process itself. So on UCAS, it's not just about submitting before the 15th of January. It's keeping monitoring your UCAS track for those decisions that come back from the institutions and the universities to make sure that you know where you are with that.
Yeah, it's important, and there will be a long period of time where you won't hear anything, and it's just believe in yourself and be patient and don't panic about it. But yeah, that's my kind of part done in a nutshell. Hang around, hang around for the Q&A at the end, and if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Oh, great job. So we now should be heading over to Ronan. So I'm delighted to welcome our acting head of admissions, Ronan Cullen. So delighted you can join us this evening, Ronan, and he's going to take us through the next part of the webinar this evening. So I'll pass over to yourself, Ronan. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Can you hear me all right? Yeah.
Yes, buddy.
Yeah. No glitches there.
If you just go on ahead there, Johnny, on to the next slide, or whoever's driving. So the admissions team at Ulster, we have a presence on each of our four campuses. So in Belfast, Coleraine, and Jordanstown and Magee. We process around 30,000 UCAS applications every year. And then we obviously have a lot of non-UCAS courses as well that we have intakes for as well, some part-time undergraduate and then postgraduate as well. We work with our schools and faculty. So around this time of year, we're talking to them about their entry requirements and whether or not we're going to have any change for the upcoming year. We're looking at equivalence of qualifications. So we talk a lot about A levels, but we talk about the comparison as well between A level and BTEC and so on to see if we're going to have any changes. And we make all those entry requirements available to you. I think Michael was said about the website, the online prospectus. That's where you'll see our whole range of information about our entry requirements and what you need to get on that course. at the minute we're making our way into the initial decision-making stage. So we're starting to get applications at the minute. Johnny mentioned earlier on there about teachers completing a reference on your behalf on a 15th of January deadline. One thing I would note, and the boys maybe haven't talked about, is that 15th of January deadline is the time that your teacher needs to have that application in with their reference. So the thing about annoying teachers, annoy them to make sure your application gets in time. It's really important that that's in by the 15th of January. At the minute then, whenever we get your application, that initial decision you can be expecting will be a conditional or an unconditional offer. If you haven't done the research that Kirsten's talking about and you've applied for a course that maybe you're not doing the subjects that you're going to meet the entry requirements for, rather than just a conditional offer, we might make a slight change to that and suggest a different program. So don't be surprised sometimes if we make a wee change. Once we've gone through that initial decision making, we'll try to make decisions as quickly as possible on your application, and in some cases that will mean that we can make it within days of getting your application. Other areas we'll have additional selection we have to go through before we can make a decision on your application. So that'll be things like portfolio assessment on art and design. For health courses, there's the HPAT test. In nursing and social work, traditionally we've done interviews. I'll talk a bit more about additional selection later on, about all of those that I've listed. There are some changes for this year, and there will be a bit more information about those. Johnny mentioned then during the spring you move into firm and insurance, where we get your firm and insurance offers through. The deadline, if we make all your decisions, if you've got all your offers by the 31st of March, the 5th of May is your deadline for making those firm and insurance choices. You don't do that, UCAS will decline your choice on your behalf, and kind of it puts you into clearing if it gets to that point. So it is really important you make those decisions by the 5th of May. If you don't get a decision then until after the 31st of March, there's a rolling deadline that rolls on until the end of June. And then confirmation and clearing. Confirmation and clearing for us this year was a very different experience. It started a lot earlier in the cycle. We started in July with how exams and all came in and how some of the offers were made, and went right through into September. And really we're just getting finished up there around about a week ago. But it's mainly August where that all happens. What happens in confirmation and clearing is we look at the grades that you've been given by the awarding body, and we compare those to the offer we've made, and fingers crossed we're able to make you an offer on that. Again, sometimes you might see a change course offer to an alternative program at that stage if you haven't quite met the entry requirements and we can't take you. And of course then you have to clear in at that time of year as well. We have some new changes this year in terms of programs we have on offer. So on our Coleraine campus we have marine science and an entry requirement there of BCC at A level. We have paramedic science on the McGee campus starting this year at BBC. Our politics course is now being updated and revamped. It's now politics and international studies. We introduced IFY is an integrated foundation year. And we have for that this year in the School of Computing in Jordanstown and in Computing and Engineering on the McGee campus. The entry requirement to that was 2 grade C's at A level and another 3 grade C's or better at GCSE, including maths and English. So if you don't quite meet what you're hoping for, we have an option there in computing both on both campuses and engineering that might be appealing when the time comes. We have a new medicine degree, a graduate entry medicine degree this year. We have a different deadline for that one. That's the 31st of March. And obviously as it's graduate entry, it's not relevant for those who are doing A levels at the minute. And we have some entry requirement changes. So I mentioned the discussions that we're having with our faculties and schools at the minute, and we'll be publishing those on their online prospectus. We advertise our entry requirements a year in advance, so those entry requirements won't involve any increases. They would only be where we're able to reduce the entry requirement for the coming year.
Rowan, just on the paramedic science there, I know for a fact that at schools and even through all the emails I'm getting, it's a very popular choice this year. Do you expect any additional selection methods or criteria to be introduced for that this year?
Yes, I do, yes. in any other year, Johnny, we would have been looking at interviewing for paramedic science. We've kept the grades there at a relatively low, but we will be restricting offers, and we'll be looking at video interviews. So we'll be moving. There'll be no offers for paramedic science until after the 15th of January. So anybody who makes an application for it won't receive an application in the near future. And shortly after the deadline, we'll issue a request for people to submit a video interview. And there's a bit more on that later, but we introduced that this year in the response to COVID, where we weren't able to bring our nursing applicants on campus. So that's how we'll be looking at paramedic science.
Okay.
So on your application, it's kind of a temptation when you start thinking about what makes a good application to jump into the personal statement, and Kirsten has covered a lot in it. So I'm going to talk just about a couple of practical things you can do to make sure there's no snags with your application. And I'll talk briefly about your personal statement as well. So your contact details, people tend to change email addresses. They'll put on a school email address when they're submitting their application that then they will lose access to when school finishes in June. So it's really important to keep your contact details updated. That email address, I'll show you some of the communications we'll send to you later in the presentation, but we'll be communicating with you throughout the entire cycle. And whenever it comes to next August, you'll hopefully be getting an email from us asking you to accept your place. And if you don't get that email, then it's going to be difficult to accept it, and it's going to cause you a bit of hassle trying to find out what's happening. So make sure and keep those up to date. Phone numbers as well. Later in the cycle, when we get to August and September, we'll use your mobile number and we'll be sending out SMS messages. So it's really important we have those. Nominated contact's another option on the UCAS
as well, because they do really speed up the process for not just the applicant, but for the team as well.
Absolutely, John. Whenever we get to August, the sooner that we can find out if people are accepting their place or declining it, it's important that we know those things because we can move that place on to somebody else. So, yeah, it does. The SMS in particular is really, really responsive. We get great responses to it. We do see some of the mobile numbers come through with a 004407, an extra digit or two. So just be conscious of that when you're putting that in and make sure it's right. Check, double check, and all that. So nominated contact is another option you have on UCAS, and that's where you can nominate somebody to speak on your behalf. So that's if one of your parents or an older sibling or somebody wants to contact us and talk about your application, we won't talk to them unless you've nominated them as a contact. So that might not seem too important at the minute, but whenever you get into clearing next August, if there are any issues, if you don't quite get the grades you're hoping for, you might want somebody to talk to us on your behalf. So just to future-proof that option, put somebody in there now, and hopefully you won't need it, but the option will be there. Qualifications as well. Then we'll base the applications. We'll base your offer, sorry, on the qualifications you tell us you're doing. And if you tell us something that's incorrect, you could get a wrong offer. Or if you tell us that the size of a qualification isn't right, if you tell us you're doing a kind of 2 A-level equivalent BTEC instead of a 3 grade A-level equivalent, an extended diploma, you might not get an offer. We might assume that that you can't meet the entry requirements. So it's really important you get that right up front whenever you're submitting your application. It's important that you're able to meet the entry requirements with the qualifications that you're doing, and we're going to talk about that a wee bit more in the next slide. But you need to look at the details on the prospectus and make sure that the qualifications that we're asking for are ones that you are doing, and more so the subjects. And be prepared for additional selection. So we do have a range of courses where we will have additional selection. Johnny mentioned paramedic science there. We have nursing, social work, and a range of other courses. And art and design portfolio, which you can be working on at the minute. So this is a few examples of some of our entry requirements, and essentially what I want to show you here is how to keep your 5 choices. So 5 isn't a lot, and you need to narrow that down to 2 whenever you get to spring, whenever you've got all your offers. And if you apply for 1 or 2 courses and you don't have the subjects to meet the entry requirement, you could very easily find yourself only having 2 or 3 choices to pick your firm and insurance from, and it's not a nice position to be in. So it's really important you research those entry requirements. The top one there's is we would call it desirable subjects. So the entry requirement there is ABB, and there's no specific subject requirements. We'll consider anything, but if you're doing one of the subjects listed there, so maths, physics, chemistry, and so on, we'll reduce that ABB entry requirement by 2 grades, and the offer you would be made for that course would be BBC. So there's a real kind of incentive there for that type of, to apply for that type of course if you're doing one of those subjects.
Yeah. Ronan, could you give us a couple of examples, maybe just where that's from and courses that would be relevant with that desirable criteria?
Well, that one there's computing science, Michael.
Okay.
And the exact same offer would apply to software engineering. We have another couple of courses in the School of Computing that would be 1 grade lower, so BBB, and you still get 2 grade reduction if you're doing one of those subjects. And then areas like engineering, across our whole School of Engineering, quantity surveying, accounting, there's quite a wide range of them. But again, they're all in the prospectus.
Grand, perfect.
And the one below then is where it's subject specific, and this is where you can eliminate yourself from a choice. If you're not doing one of the subjects. So in that example, we're looking 3 Bs, and one of your Bs must be one of the subjects listed, as opposed to a grade reduction if you're doing one of them. So if you're not doing maths, physics, chemistry, and so on, you won't get an offer for that course, and we will look for an alternative if there is one similar, but you won't get an offer for the course that you've actually applied for.
You'd be effectively wasting a choice.
Absolutely, yeah. And like I said, Johnny, all you have to do is do that, 1 or 2 choices, and the choices you have then are way down. On the personal statement then, there's a whole host of resources available on personal statements, and Kirsten gave a really good rundown of it there. I'm not going to go into kind of huge detail of how you should structure your personal statement, but I do have a bit of information on the next slide that would help you with that. But there are a few key points I think worth noting. You have 5 choices, but you only have 1 personal statement. So it's really important that you show the admissions tutors and the academics that will be looking at your personal statement that you're interested in that course, and in some ways you have to do that by not mentioning the course that you're applying for. So you need to talk about the skills and experience you have that would make you a good candidate for that course without actually saying it. That's relatively straightforward if you have one specific subject area that you're applying to in multiple universities. So if you're interested in computing science and you're applying for that in 5 different universities, or in nursing, for example, or another area, you can talk about the area of computing and software engineering, or about adult nursing and mental health nursing, and you can talk about that without actually mentioning a subject or a course name. But if you're applying for a range of courses in different subject areas, that's more challenging. So that's where you want to talk, more broadly, talk about your skills and experience.
Ronan, just can I pick you up there on the experience, only because you said nursing. I thought it was a good time to come in. Now, of course, I know working with schools that at a specific time of year, they would be undertaking work experience weeks or 4 weeks. That didn't happen this year because of COVID-19. So there'll be a lot of applicants worried about their application form and their personal statement because they haven't been able to reflect on the work experience they've had. And that's a big driver towards their application. Is the university taking this into consideration this year?
Yeah, absolutely, Johnny, we are, yeah. If kind of reverse a wee bit into the 2020 cycle there, we actually have a course that one of the entry requirements is that the applicant must be doing 8 hours of voluntary and work in the voluntary sector per week for a period of time, and that obviously didn't happen during the lead up to September 2020. So we discussed that it's a professional body requirement, and we went and discussed that with the professional body, and we changed those entry requirements. The same applies to nursing and any of the other areas where work experience is an important factor in a personal statement. We're fully aware and nobody will be penalised for not having that work experience. And not in place of that, it's really important to talk about your aspirations for the subject area, to talk about the personal qualities that would make you good. a good nurse or whatever else it is. Talk about, any skills you have, transferable skills, knowledge and understanding of the profession and things like that.
Brilliant, that's good to know.
Yeah. So this is some of the resources that are available to help with personal statements. So I had a look online. UCAS, the image on the right is from the UCAS website. Which.co.uk, I was quite surprised that a really good piece on personal statements and how to structure your personal statement, right down to the percentage of time you should spend or percentage of your words that you should spend on each of the areas. So that was really interesting, and I thought it was quite good. For parents, we have a guide there on our own website, not specific to personal statements, but again, I think that was quite a good resource. It kind of talked about, is university actually the right choice for your child, about picking universities, how to apply, about the process and so on. And then on the third column there in that wee screenshot from UCAS, you can see they've talked about how to write your personal statement, about your introduction, your structure, just basically how to build it and make it something that admissions tutors want to look at. Johnny, you mentioned earlier on as well about similarity detection. UCAS do a check on personal statements, and we get an email every time it finds a personal statement that's similar to something we've seen before, that they have received before. So more common than you think. It's not worth it. It won't necessarily count against you, but whenever we get into that area of looking at them, and if personal statements do become a significant factor in the application process, you don't want a similarity detection sitting against that.
Yeah, and the thing is there as well, Warren, these are individually, there's 5 for a person, they have 5 probably very different choices on the application form. So there's no way that it should be the same. It's got to be about you and your applications to get onto the course or a career as well. So it's got to be your own piece of work.
Yeah. Additional selection, and I know a lot of people will be interested in additional selection, and whenever Johnny and Michael were talking earlier, I noticed there was a few questions around this. So nursing and social work, in the past we would have done on-campus interviews, and obviously in the current climate that's not something that we're keen on. There won't be any on-campus interviews for nursing or personal statement this year, or nursing or social work. There'll be no second personal statement for social work either, which traditionally we would have done in the past. That'll all be based on video interviews, similar to the one I mentioned about paramedic science. So shortly after the UCAS deadline, we'll be sending out a request to submit an answer to a question or an interview that our academics have set, and we'll collate those back in. There's going to be quite a quick turnaround on those. It'll only be a few days to get them submitted, and we'll be working off those this year as opposed to on-campus interviews or but as opposed to the on-campus interviews. To help with some of those, we have a Nursing Insight evening on the Wednesday, the 14th of October, and they'll talk a lot more about what's going to be involved in that. And Paramedic Science are doing one as well on the 21st of October. For the HPAT, so for anybody who doesn't know what HPAT is, it's a health professional aptitude test that we run for some of our health professional courses. It usually runs on the last weekend in January, and it's on campus. So you can everybody into our assembly hall and a couple of the sports halls, and you sit for a 3-hour test. Last year we took podiatry out of the test, and it remains out of the test this year. So we won't be using HPAT for podiatry. I don't have as much information on what we will be doing for HPAT as I do for nursing, social work, and paramedic science. We're looking at a range of options. We're conscious of applicant safety and staff safety, and the on-campus test doesn't look like something we're going to be able to do at the minute. Yeah. So we are meeting with a third-party company who run the test for us. We're meeting them early next week, and we hope to have some information on what's going to be the replacement for that very, very soon.
Okay.
But I think if we'll hopefully go out to the schools with that, through yourselves, Johnny and Michael, and we'll give as much information as soon as possible. We're conscious that it would have been around about now that the registration for the test would have been open, so we're working hard on getting a solution to that.
Ronan, just on the HPAT there, it applies to 6 cover courses that university offers, and there's a weighting with that. When we're out at schools, we hear examples of students who maybe a friend got an offer but the other one didn't, but they got the same overall HPAT score.
Yeah.
Maybe explain that a wee bit for me.
Yeah, so the test is scored in a range of different areas. So, you know, it's segmented, and you have things like critical reasoning and a range of other areas that you get scores on. And depending on the area that the applicant has applied to, we weight those areas differently.
Okay.
So the overall score, or the percentile that you've ended up in, they're not the decision making factor that we use. It's a lot more complex with weightings on those various areas for us then to rank and make those offers.
Okay, super.
Art and design as well then. We have a portfolio submission in art and design. I'll just draw your attention at the bottom to that link for anybody who's interested in our art and design courses in Belfast. So over the last few years, we've been trying to move to e-portfolio for a lot of these courses, which is going to serve us quite well this year now that we're not doing the on-campus interviews for the majority of those. So for most courses in art and design, you'll find that we'll be asking for an e-portfolio. For architecture, again, you know, in the past we would have asked for portfolios to be brought in. The team have been willing. You know, we moved to e-portfolio for architecture last year, where the applicant didn't have an A star, an A, or a B in GCSE art. So you didn't have to submit a portfolio if you had those grades in GCSE art. For those who did submit a portfolio, then we had an online option similar to the art and design programs. But the team were also willing to facilitate anybody who wanted to bring their work in, you know, which some people opted to do and you know, bring in the hard copy. So I'm not sure if we're going to have that option this year, but certainly we'll have the upload option. And I mentioned just for 2020 entry, we still have a bit of discussion with the course team to see if they're still content to go with the GCSE art grade A star, A and B for the current year. But anybody then, we'll update that on the prospectus when we know, and anybody who submits an application then will obviously get a decision quicker if we're able to bypass that portfolio section for those people.
Brilliant. Yeah, grand.
Just on that, the last thing I would just note on that is that fine art, traditionally, they're the ones who have never accepted online portfolio. They have always wanted a hard copy portfolio brought in with an interview. So we are in discussion with them again this year, but kind of conscious of applicant safety and all those concerns, you know, bringing people on campus. So yeah, again, we'll update that on the prospectus when we know more.
Super.
So again, I'd say we talked earlier on about desirable subjects, and we do have a non-academic reduction of entry requirements as well. We have a talented athlete entry scheme. So if you meet specific criteria on a list of what seems like an endless list of sports, you can apply for the talented athlete entry scheme. If you're accepted and you sign up to the terms and conditions, you get a 2-grade reduction on the entry requirement for the program you've chosen to do. You do have to make us your firm choice to avail of that 2-grade reduction. And again, there's a whole host of information on the university website about the scheme, and you can sign up for it there, as you can see in the wee screenshot there.
Brilliant, Ronan. Just on that wee one there, Ronan, just if a student then is accepted onto it, they find that out through UCAS Track?
Yeah, so what we would do, Michael, is we'll be making the offers, you know, as I say, in the next couple of weeks, we'll be starting to issue the offers to people who are applying early and don't have any additional selection. Yeah. The talented athlete scheme closes on the 15th of January. Again, I'm going to be more specific than Johnny on the closing date of on-time applications. It's at 6 o'clock. Okay. So talented athlete entry schemes to see 6 o'clock on 15th of January, and then there's a whole kind of assessment. You know, some of the sports are only allowed a certain number of talented athletes. So, you know, this isn't, if you meet the criteria, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get that. You know, in some of the sports, there's so many that there's a ranking that happens, and it takes a while for that to happen. So you could be talking into March or April before you'll see that updated on UCAS track. But you'll sign up to the scheme. Whoever's, you know, successful will find out beforehand that they've been successful, and then on return of the contract, the sports centre will let us know, and we'll issue those in bulk in one go once we know that they've made us a firm choice, and we have the list from the sports centre.
Okay, brilliant.
Ronan, could you just bring the attention that obviously we have some courses that are 3Bs, for example, or 2Bs and a C, but there is a limit to the reduction for the talented athlete entry scheme.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a 2-grade reduction, Johnny, but we don't go below CCC.
Yeah.
So, you know, at BBB or BBC, that's fine. You know, we put the 2-grade reduction, and in those 3 examples, you'd go to BCC and CCC. But if the course you're applying for is BCC, for example, you would only get a 1-grade reduction to CCC. We wouldn't put that to CCD. Just, you know, that would be just a bit too low for us to be taking some of them.
And again, just to highlight to everybody watching there, the if you need to find out where that application form is, all you have to do is put in talented athlete entry scheme in the search engine of our own website, and that will come up with the page where you can create your own account and apply the talented athlete entry scheme.
Yeah, so this is kind of I just want to talk a wee bit then about how we communicate with you throughout your application. So once you've applied, once you've submitted an application, both ourselves and UCAS will be in touch with you, and we'll begin sending various communications. So whenever anything changes in your application, Kirsten mentioned this earlier on, that she got I think it was a text message from UCAS saying there's been an update on track. So UCAS don't send anything to you saying you've got a conditional offer. They send you there's been an update, and you have to log into UCAS track to see what that update is. But from ourselves, from the point of application, we'll send you an email saying, you know, thanks for your application. Once we make you an offer, whether that be conditional or unconditional, we'll send you another offer, and or another email, sorry, and we'll include in that the details of your offer. So what have we asked you to get? You know, is it, you know, BBB or BCC and so on? And we'll link some of our terms and conditions in there just to make you aware of those at an early stage. At firm and insurance stage, hopefully you'll make us a firm choice. And at that point, we'll send you another email thanking you for choosing us. And we'll invite you then to upload any qualifications you've already completed. So we're talking GCSEs at that point, really. And that makes it an awful lot easier whenever you get into August and September to go through enrollment. So we collect all those qualifications up front so you can engage with the online enrollment process earlier. And then the one you can see here is, you know, if you're accepted in, you know, July, August, September, we'll make you unconditional firm. And at that point, we need you to accept or decline your place. So you can see that the 2 options are there to accept or decline. And should you accept, then you'll get a joining instructions email from us as well. In August and September, I mentioned earlier on again about mobile numbers. So it's at that stage that we'll start sending text messages as well. So if you're not opening your emails, or you know, we don't see a response from you, we will follow up with a text message. So don't be surprised to see those coming. And I think I would just highlight that the communications I'm talking about here are along the lines of any changes to your application was when you'll receive emails from admissions. Johnny and Michael are slightly different, and they'll maybe be inviting you to information evenings and events like that. I think you could probably talk a bit more about that, boys.
Yeah, and Ronan, I think it's important to highlight here that you know, the frequency of communications, but also that UCAS track is the first protocol, isn't it, for all communication regarding updates to your application?
Yeah, we let UCAS lead with that. So UCAS will always provide that update first. We'll send you a communication the next working day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for a typical applicant who has maybe 2 choices with Ulster University, let's just say, even say CF and the CI, they should expect to receive a number of updates through UCAS and maybe, say 4 or 5 other email stroke SMS communications from ourselves right throughout the process.
Yeah, well, that's about right. So we would acknowledge their application. We issue a terms and conditions, a conditional offer letter for each choice. So somebody who has two choices with us would get that twice, but we'll only then send one firmer insurance, one just to say thanks for choosing us. So there you're talking about 4 with that, and then another couple in August. Assuming you engage quite quickly in August, we will follow up quite quickly in August if we haven't heard from you. So that's kind of quite a quick run through of admissions and what we do, and hopefully you can see how we can help maybe throughout your application cycle. You might have a lot more questions than can be asked here, or you might have some that come to you in the coming days. So to that end, we're introducing this new opportunity, to book a one-to-one with an admissions, with somebody from the admissions team. You can book a 30-minute slot. The type of topics that we can help you with are the entry conditions. So if you have any confusion about entry conditions, some of our BTEC offers, we ask for specific units within the BTECs, and they can go into quite a bit of detail when we do that. So any queries around that, we can help. About the application process we've just gone through, if you have any confusion about what to expect over the next 10 or 11 months. Alternative routes into Ulster. So you might look at the entry requirements now and think, well, I wanted to do a particular course, but I don't have the A-level subjects to do it. So you can start thinking now about alternative routes. We have really good relationships with the further education sector, with the colleges throughout Northern Ireland. And we can advise you on options there to get onto the course you want. And anything else in relation to admissions, if there's something we can't help with, accommodation or a whole range of other areas, we'll point you in the right direction, but it might be difficult for us to actually help you on one of these slots. So I think the URL's at the bottom of that page, Johnny. I just can't see it on my screen.
Yeah, it is, and what we'll do is we will send this out to all the schools and colleges, so it can be passed on via parent mail or Teams or whatever platforms schools used for this current cohort to possibly get an appointment. Fantastic idea.
Yeah, the one thing I would say, Johnny, is we've asked kind of what subject area is it you want to talk about, and we have a kind of question then around be more specific about what you want to talk about. So is there a specific course? Is it the entry requirements for the course? Is it something about equivalence to BTEC? The more specific that anybody booking a session can be, the better then we can allocate somebody from the admissions team that's specialised in that area to make that phone call back to them. So the more information you can give us, the better that'll be.
What we'll do is, if Martin, I know our colleague Martin's working away in the background there answering all the questions, if Martin can add the link to the chat or the Q&A, then everybody can go directly to the page to view potential appointments as well. Michael.
Yep, so cheers, Roland, thanks very much for that. So just to wrap up, just a wee bit of our ongoing engagement. Just to, as the guys were saying earlier about our changing circumstances, obviously with COVID. So a lot of more stuff that we're doing is online, and we are running a series of future applicant webinars. So the information's on the website, and you'll see those coming up. So they usually take place, they'll be after school time, and it'll give you a chance to log on there. So next week we'll have a full calendar for the next few weeks, but just in the next week there's one in there, for example, for parents. So maybe a wee bit about the UCAS process again, maybe about finance, about accommodation, student support at Ulster University. There's a talk on the HPAT process, as Ronan was saying there, just on we're just not at the stage yet where we're able to say how that's going to be conducted and where it's going to be conducted. But in terms of the areas that it covers, the 3 core skills that they're going to be looking for, questions that tend to come up, that's going to be covered as part of that HPAT talk. So keep an eye out for those. There are recruitment webinars, so it's ulster.ac.uk/recruitment -webinars, and you'll get all the information on there. And please feel free to check those out, and then you can register and then log on at the time that they're on. So,
Michael, just to add to that, though, I mean, I've had a few queries in from the teachers, the schools I look after, and especially rural schools whose students maybe can't get back for 4 o'clock to log on to those webinars. Of course, you can look at them again, you can view them again at previous webinars, but what we'll do is we'll look to offer a few more webinars later on in the afternoon or early evening over the next couple of weeks to support your application to Ulster University as well.
And thank you. And this just is purely just on our website, just again, just to show you, as we've been making reference, and Kirsten was saying earlier about doing research, all of the information regarding what Ronan was covering in terms of those desirables, the entry requirements, they're all going to be on the website there. So if you go, you search for your course, down the left-hand side, you'll click on entry conditions, and then you can see what they are there for A-level. And it'll say if it's just a grade profile required, as an example here for business study, just after a particular grade with no particular subjects. Same for the BTEC. Again, it'll just be your BTEC, the grade will be required, as opposed to those other ones that Ronan was mentioning earlier, where there will be maybe specific subjects that you need to be doing, and then within that subject you need to be achieving a particular grade. Okay, so that's really it for in terms of the presentation. There were a good few questions in as well. Just nice wee easy one there. It just caught my eye. Is the HPAT required for psychology? So it isn't. You'll not need to do HPAT for psychology, so you don't need to worry about it for that one. Is Maths A-level needed for accountancy? And if I don't do it, will it affect me getting onto the course? Roland, do you want to take that one?
No, that's one that falls into the desirable subjects.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
there is a grade reduction if you're doing A-level maths, but absolutely it doesn't disadvantage you if you're not doing it.
But it's not. But you need a grade B in your maths as a definite.
At GCSE, you do, yeah.
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 So don't worry about having to do it at A-level. As Roland says, you'll get a grade reduction. But if you don't do maths at A-level, you will definitely still need a grade B in your GCSE maths. Okay.
Ron, just another question here. It's a pretty good question actually in terms of being pertinent. Is there a preference given to an applicant with 3 A-levels as opposed to a mix of qualifications such as BTEC and 1 A-level, or BTEC and a Tech National and 1 A-level?
No,
That's
not
a
at all,
good
Johnny.
question. Yeah.
No, there's not. So I kind of mentioned that whenever I first started talking, the work we do with the faculties in schools, we look at equivalence of qualifications. We look at kind of achievement of the number of applicants getting certain grades, and we work out an equivalence between BTECs and A-levels. So somebody doing 3 A-levels and achieving the equivalent of what we have set in BTEC, absolutely not disadvantaged. If those two people get the same equivalent grades, both would be, and they meet the entry requirements, both would get in. There's no disadvantage to doing BTEC.
Brilliant. Somebody's asking just when will the location of where the studying of health sciences will be confirmed. So university is working through that process at the minute. It's gone out for a consultation across a wide range of stakeholders. It's asking for their feedback of where they asking loads of different questions of about the health sciences, where it's going to be located, why it would be located, and the benefits and stuff of that. So they're going to be reviewing that information, and hopefully it'll be soon, but we're just not in a position yet to be saying where they are going to be located to, unfortunately. Just
One there for Kirsten, Michael, if she can hear me okay. Someone is asking if they would recommend, if you would recommend undertaking a work placement and why.
Oh yeah, I would definitely recommend doing a work placement. I had a part-time job in my first 2 years of university, but what I've learned already in placement, I would never have learned in working a couple of days, and I used to work in Boots. I would never have learned things like this here. So
yeah.
It's definitely isn't valuable, and to employers as well, if you have a placement compared to a student with no placement and not that experience. It's definitely important. I found it useful. I've loved my placement already, and I've only been in it a couple of months, but it definitely is beneficial.
You know how to use Zoom and Teams and all the rest.
Yep. All of that.
Another quick one here, guys, is support around video interviews. I know it's something that our Career Development Centre do internally for our current students, and it's getting applicants for placement or for graduate employment ready for interviews, but not just interviews, normal interviews, video interviews as well. And we have a question here about how somebody goes about preparing for a video interview and if there are any resources available for that.
Johnny, I'll take that. I mentioned it earlier, those nursing and the nursing insight evening that's happening next Wednesday night at webinar, they get great feedback every year. And, granted that the process is changing slightly for them this year. They did video interviews last year in response to COVID, but they're pre-planned a bit more now. They have experience of 1 year through it. I'd advise anybody to sign up to that. And then the following week, Paramedic Science are doing, they're doing their own version of it. So I would definitely be heading that direction, getting signed up for those webinars for a bit of help with that.
Yeah, I think it's something what we'll do is, Michael, for our relative schools is to generate resource from our Career Development Centre, and we could pass it out to the schools and colleges for them to access the support around video interviews, something good. So we'll get that out to the schools towards the end of this week.
Yep. Just Amy's asked there, Ronan, I think I know approximately, but I'll just ask, he's just saying approximately how many places are available for the adult nursing. So it's around 200.
Well, it changes, Michael, every year. It
Right.
went up fairly significantly this year. We've got a good few extra places. It was over 300 this year.
Brilliant.
But we don't know what's going to happen year to year with it.
Because it's funded through the Department of Health.
The Department of Health normally let us know in late March how many places they want us to fill. And that applies not just to adult nursing, it applies to mental health nursing, and it applies to all those allied health courses that are involved in the HPAT and podiatry.
Yeah. So, yes, somebody's asked there just how many spaces are available for the likes of radiography or physio, but again, that depends on Department of Health. If they allocate funding for 20 radiographers, then that's all we can take.
Yeah, that's it, Michael. And outside of kind of the numbers that they would like us to take, there's placement in those courses as well, and there's so many only so many radiography departments in Northern Ireland that we can place people in. So there's restrictions beyond just how many places the department are willing to give us each year.
Yes, sure.
Ronan, a question here from Donal on clearing, something we didn't, I suppose, spend too much time on tonight. Should I just wait until clearing to apply?
That's risky. It's an approach you could take, but you get into clearing and you're up against an awful lot of other people. Whereas if you apply by the 15th of January, we're duty bound. We have to make you offers on your choices, and you can pick your firm and insurance. And if you meet the grades, you're in. But if we don't go into clearing on the course that you're looking for, you're automatically locked out. That is a very, very risky approach. Yeah,
it is. Another question, it's one I recall from earlier on the Q&A as I was looking through, was with regards to sports and whether admissions are able to introduce another selection criteria, for example, a more in-depth look at the personal statement or an interview as a part of this year's process. Is that possible?
Is it possible? Yes. So anything in the UCAS application can be used in the assessment of the application. Now, what we can't do is move the goalposts on grades. So the grades that we have, we can move them, we can reduce them, but we can't increase the grades. So there's a limitation there, and it would obviously be very unfair. It's not something we'd ever do, but anything that's part of your UCAS application can be used in the selection process.
Grand. So, look, there's loads we've got through there this evening. Unfortunately, like everything, there's a time on these things, and it can't go on. But I'd just like to thank you all for taking part initially. Johnny and Ronan first time, and Kirsten for giving up her evening to come on. It's very much appreciated. The FAQs, we're going to take them all, and then we'll copy them, and then we will put answers to them, and then we'll submit those. We'll put those on our website, so you'll be able to see the answers. So if you have posted anything and we didn't get to it this evening, didn't cover it, we'll put it on there. If you want a more in-depth chat, don't forget what Ronan was saying. There's one-to-one. So again, you'll be on our website, book that one-to-one session. It's a half hour. You're getting to chat to somebody in admissions there. So it'll be really valuable time that you'll have. And then also our webinars that we have on our website coming up over the next few weeks. Make sure you check those out and log on there, again, register, and then get yourself onto those webinars. And again, hopefully they'll be able to answer all your questions as well. So, all right, guys.
Just to be reminded there that tonight's webinar was recorded, so
okay,
it's available on the previous webinar section of ulster.ac.uk/recruitment/web.
brilliant.
We'll
All
send
right,
them out
guys.
via
So,
email as well.
perfect. Thanks, everyone. Take care.